something deadly occurred in 535 AD that rewrote the future of humanity. Civilizations crumbled, disease outbreaks occurred, crop failures all around the world took place, and ultimately, millions of people perished in a heinous way. The earth was plunged into darkness, as the sun became shrouded for years beneath a veil of volcanic haze. A major volcanic event, the likes of which Earth hasn't seen in at least 1600 years, occurred. In ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica, sulfate concentrations show a significant increase in sulfate levels around 536, 540 and again in the early 550s AD, which indicates a major volcanic event or events did indeed occur. This spike, which shows concentrations elevated above the background levels, corresponds with historical records of climatic anomalies, including global cooling and widespread crop failures. This means the entire world experienced a volcanic winter, starting in 536 AD. The volcanic winter of 536 was the most severe and protracted episode of climatic cooling in the Northern Hemisphere in the last 2,000 years. Whilst a major volcanic eruption undoubtedly occurred, it's unclear which volcano or volcanoes caused it. For decades, scientists have speculated that Krakatoa was responsible for this event, but recent evidence suggests it didn't erupt around this time, throwing a wrench into the theory that it was responsible for changing the course of human history. But if it wasn't Krakatoa, where the heck was this volcano? Well, there is evidence suggesting that the Earth experienced not one, not two, but three or more significant volcanic eruptions during this period. One around 535 AD and another around 540 AD, with a third in the early 550s. The combination of these three or more events could explain the prolonged and severe climatic impact that occurred around the entire globe. It was a triple whammy in every sense of the word. The evidence for three major eruptions around 535, 540 and the early 550s AD comes from a combination of ice core sulfate layers, tree ring growth anomalies, historical accounts of climatic disruptions, and geochemical analysis. The cumulative effect of these eruptions contributed to a protracted period of climatic cooling and instability known as the Late Antique Little Ice Age. One study suggested a global cooling of 2 degrees Celsius or 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Originally, scientists thought that there might have been an asteroid or comet impact that caused this period of pronounced cooling. But not a single impact layer has been found, and if a comet or meteorite hit the Earth, ice cores would likely show a combination of iridium and platinum anomalies, soot and microscopic spheral layers, shocked minerals, and extraterrestrial gases like helium-3. But none of this has been found. Only spikes in sulfate emissions have been discovered. One of the most surprising and horrifying effects of this volcanic winter was its link to the outbreak of the Justinian Plague. The transmission of the Bubonic Plague by fleas is influenced by temperature. Yes, that's right, temperature. You see, at higher temperatures, fleas can pass the plague through their digestive system and out into their excrement. At lower temperatures, there occurs a blockage of the flea's digestive system by Yersinia pestis. This blockage leads to increased biting frequency and regurgitation of the bacteria into bite wounds, making transmission more efficient. Under approximately 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit, the plague bacterium Yersinia pestis can form a blockage in the flea's digestive system. This blockage prevents the flea from properly ingesting blood, leading to a state known as a blocked flea. This means they experience a state of constantly being hungry regardless of if they just feasted. Some historical sources and modern genetic studies suggest that the plague may have originated in East Africa, possibly in the region that is now Ethiopia. Whilst Africa is normally hot, the volcanic winter affected this region, much like it did with the rest of the world. And it's thought that the plague hitched a ride on the lucrative ivory industry, which made its way into Cairo and then on to Constantinople in modern-day Turkey, which was then the capital of the Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire. The port city of Alexandria was particularly important for trade between Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, and the Romans occupied Alexandria during that time. The effects of the plague were beyond terrible. It's thought that 10,000 people per day were dying in Constantinople. Eventually, so many people died that records stopped being kept. A similar outbreak occurred in Alexandria, and all over the Mediterranean, Europe, Asia, and Africa. There is limited but suggestive evidence that the Justinian Plague may have reached India, and it's thought that it reached Germany and the British Isles too. But the effects of the volcanic winter wasn't only limited to the transmission of the deadly bubonic plague. Civilizations all around the globe crumbled from a myriad of different reasons, all of which were related to the prolonged winter. Archaeological evidence that Teotihuacan in central Mexico experienced significant internal conflict and social upheaval during the 6th century. The combination of environmental challenges and internal strife likely contributed to the eventual collapse of the city around 550 to 600 AD. The Maya civilization, particularly in the southern lowlands, was highly dependent on agriculture, and climatic stability was crucial for maintaining their complex society. The Maya civilization was located in Mesoamerica, specifically in the region that now includes parts of modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. The volcanic winter would have led to cooler temperatures and potentially altered rainfall patterns, contributing to agricultural challenges. Evidence from lake sediment cores and other paleoclimatic data suggests that the Maya region experienced significant droughts during the mid-6th century. Crop failures and water shortages would have put pressure on food supplies, leading to famine and social stress. The combination of environmental stress and resource scarcity likely contributed to political instability and social unrest. Some major urban centres in the Maya civilization show evidence of decline during this period, including decreased construction activity and signs of social upheaval. Contemporary writings from the Byzantine Empire, China, and Europe document the significant climatic and environmental disruptions associated with the volcanic eruptions around 535 AD. These accounts provide a historical record of the volcanic winter and its profound impact on societies across the globe. Let's start with the Byzantine Empire. In his work, History of the Wars, Procopius provides a detailed account of the atmospheric and climatic anomalies observed during this period. He describes a period when the sun shone faintly and appeared as if in perpetual eclipse, leading to cooler temperatures and agricultural failures. To quote him, "It came about during this year that a most dread portent took place, for the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon during the whole year." John of Ephesus, a Syriac Christian writer, documented unusual weather patterns and a period of darkness in his ecclesiastical history. He mentions the dimming of the sun and widespread famine. To quote him, "The sun became dark and its darkness lasted for 18 months. Every day it shone for about 4 hours, and still this light was only a feeble shadow. Everyone declared that the sun would never recover its full light again." In 538, the Roman statesman Cassiodorus described the following to one of his subordinates in a letter. "The sun's rays were weak, and they appeared a bluish colour. At noon, no shadows from people were visible on the ground. The heat from the sun was feeble. The moon, even when full, was empty of splendour, which I assume means it didn't shine in the night sky. A winter without storms, a spring without mildness, and a summer without heat. Prolonged frost and unseasonable drought. The seasons seem to all be jumbled up together. The sky is described as blended with alien elements, just like cloudy weather, except prolonged. It was stretched like a hide across the sky, and prevented the true colours of the sun and moon from being seen, along with the sun's warmth. Frosts during harvest made apples harden and grapes sour. The need to use stored food lasted through the situation. Subsequent letters discuss plans to relieve a widespread famine. Moving on, the Mandaeans traditionally inhabited regions in what is now southern Iraq and southwestern Iran, particularly around the Tigris and Euphrates river systems. In the entry corresponding to the year 535 to 536, the Mandaean Book of Kings relates, "Were you to request a tenth of a peck of grain in the land Gorkay for 5 staters, we would look but it would not be found." An exchange of 873 grams of grain for 43 grams of gold reflects the scarcity of grain during this time. A dense dry fog was recorded in the Middle East, China, and Europe. Moving on to China now. The Nanxi historical text includes records of unusual climatic events during the 530s and 540s AD, such as frost in summer and widespread crop failures. The Chinese chronicles describe unusual atmospheric conditions that align with the period of the volcanic winter. They also describe a yellow ash-like substance from the sky that you could scoop up in the hand. In the annals of the Tang dynasty, they recorded a great cold and famine in 536. The Book of the later Han recorded a year of great cold, and a famine that occurred in the summer. Low temperatures were recorded and even snow fell during the summer, causing a delayed harvest, and there were widespread crop failures. In Ireland, a failure of bread was recorded from 536 to 539 AD. A drought in Peru occurred which affected the Moche culture. Now, I watched a documentary on this a few days ago for the second time, and it stated that the Chinese heard an eruption occur, but after digging through the literature, nothing is mentioned regarding a sound being heard. I wanted to state this because it's misleading. Some people have speculated that Icelandic volcanoes might have caused this eruption. Cryotepheras dated exactly to 536 are geochemically distinct from Icelandic tephra. So what volcano might have started this event in 535? Well, surprisingly, it appears to have begun with an extreme volcanic eruption in the Northern Hemisphere. There is a study that was released in 2015 called Timing and Climate Forcing of Volcanic Eruptions for the Past 2500 Years. This study looks into the 535 AD event, and it mentions that it's very likely that the eruption actually occurred in North America. The study relies on geochemical evidence to propose these regions as contributors to the mid-6th century volcanic activity, but it does not state which volcano actually caused it. In 540 AD, an eruption that occurred in the equator further disrupted the climate of the Earth, with the study showing tree ring growth anomalies that lasted until 547 AD. Geochemical analysis of 536 cryotepheras distinguishes at least 3 synchronous eruptive events in North America. Further analysis correlates one of the eruptions to a widespread monocratus tephra identified in northeast California. The other 2 eruptions most likely originated from the eastern Aleutians and the northern Cordilleran volcanic province. Regardless of where these volcanic eruptions occurred, it's clear that a serious wave of volcanic winters impacted the Earth beginning in 536 AD. Something like this will happen again, and it's unclear just how humanity will cope with such a significant event. These eruptions were deadly to say the least, and it's only a matter of time before they happen again. So where do you think these eruptions occurred from? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. Are you interested in animals? I've just started a second channel called Paleozoology that discusses extinct and extant animals with a current focus on the megafauna that once dominated and roamed Australia. I've released a video on the marsupial lion which existed in Australia during the time Indigenous Australians walked the continent. I've also covered the wombat that was the size of a car, known as the Diprotodon, or the largest terrestrial lizard known as the Megalania. I'd love to have you along for the journey as more videos are released. You can find a link to this channel and to the aforementioned videos in the description and in the pinned comment in the comment section. Before I end this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much to everyone that helps to support this channel.